want to become a demographer, maybe you want to become a demographer. I have a 15-year-old daughter who's really snarky, and she's much less polite to me. She says, "Mom, no one knows what that is. It's so boring." So I'll tell you why I like demography, and I'll share with you why I like demography today. I was drawn to it because it helps us see some of the invisible structures, these huge, slow-moving structures that impact how we live our daily lives and how our daily lives change. It's really predictable, so I like that too. It's kind of easy in some ways. You can see some of these trends coming for 50 years. You can see where they're going 50 years before they happen. And in that way, it gives us a lot of time to plan and to reorient ourselves and to kind of take stock of what we need to be doing in our everyday lives and what we need to do when we're making plans for our collective future. And so with that, I want to give you the big picture of Minnesota, just particularly where we are today and where I expect that we'll be in the next 10 to 15 years. We're in the middle of some really big changes. You all know this. Some of these things that I'll share with you today won't be particularly surprising to you as topics, but I want you to pay attention to just where we are today compared to where we were 10 years ago and where we will be in 5 to 10 years. This is the beauty. I'm going to make demographers of all of you. This is the beauty of demographics. It helps us see some of this stuff that we don't otherwise see. Let's jump in here. Oh, I'm just giving away all the surprises. Sorry, just had to push one button and not. Sorry about that, guys. I am always prepared to do an interpretive dance of all my slides. I might do it behind this next time. You want to hear what else my nerdy got it? Sharing all of that with you. I'm thinking of myself. I'll tell you a son story. Some of you will hear this one maybe, but so my son, when I became the state demographer, he was 5, and he didn't know what that was, the state demographer. So I told him my job is to count the people of Minnesota, essentially, and say that heaven is a Roman Catholic everywhere I go. Got 'em all. I love it when like everyone's sitting and not moving around and not double counting. Stand up routine, guys. It's always something.
Fill the space.
All right. We are so close. We are so close. Okay, so the question was, Steve and I have a completely off topic. Well, this isn't completely off topic. This is what's on a lot of people's minds. But I will tell you that we're very, very close to losing our congressional seat. It's not a foregone conclusion. It's still some of the estimates that have come out recently have us keeping that seat, and some have us losing it. So we're really very much on the edge. It will have to do with how well we do taking our census, how well we participate in the census, and that's going to be super hard this time around, right? Maybe even harder than we've ever had before. So, yes, the answer is very close. Very close. Okay. Let's talk about the big demographic trends that are shaping our states, and I want to start just by talking about where we are today. Minnesota, when we look at all of us as a whole, the averages, the medians, we look very, very good, especially compared to other states. We have a high proportion of people who have a bachelor's degree, a of young people who are highly educated. We have a large proportion of our working age adults who are working. We rate second there. We have a low rate of uninsured. Again, we're talking about averages, the state overall. Relatively low rate of poverty. Of course, any rate of poverty is too high, but compared to other states, again, we rate fairly well with respect to incomes. We have a highly engaged population that votes, that volunteers, that cares. We're much better looking than people from other states. Y'all, I'm getting that. I'm trying to get Minnesota Compass to put these lists together to score that and to rank the list state by state. We haven't agreed to that yet. I don't know. Okay, so let me tell you what's happening with respect to growth around the state, what we see where the growth has been happening. We have seen a tremendous amount of growth in the last few years, right? Kind of where our state, some of the beginnings of our state in the Twin Cities metropolitan area, we've seen the most growth happening in Hennepin and Ramsey County. And, you know, just about 88% of the growth that's happened in the state has occurred right in the Hennepin metropolitan area. This is pretty new for us. What we have seen in past decades is that we've seen kind of an outward, depends how far you go back, but if we're looking back maybe 50 years, we've seen this outward expansion from the center cities around the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. But since the recession, we have seen really a reversal of that trend, and we've seen the growth pick up right kind of in the center of those. The gray areas of this map are showing you where there's a decline in population. The light blue is showing you modest growth, and the darker blue is showing you more growth. I don't know if you can read that key there, but that's what's happening with this graph. It's a little bit weak. If you look at the metropolitan areas, this is just looking at it county by county. Really are growth in almost all of our metropolitan areas across the state, greater Minnesota and the Twin Cities combined. One of the things that we've seen that's been, that kind of drives home this trend of growth right in the middle of the Twin Cities metropolitan area is just looking at the growth areas of Minneapolis and St. Paul in the last half a decade or so. And you can see that Minneapolis added 30,000 people in just 6 years, Paul about 15,000 is the estimate. And just to give you a sense of kind of what the growth had been before 2010, before the last census, Minneapolis worked really, really, really hard on the 2010 census. They had community organizations going out and talking with neighbors about how important it is. They kind of went all out. They did a great job getting the word out about how important it is. They got their number back from the Census Bureau in 2010. They opened it up. I don't think they actually opened it up. It was probably an email. But let's just say they opened it up with an envelope. They ripped it open and looked at it, and they had lost 40 people over the course of a decade. So between 2000 and 2010, they lost 40 people. Now look, adding 30,000 in just 6 years. So it really is a significant change. Again, this growth that we're seeing has been concentrated in the Twin Cities metropolitan area recently, but what other metropolitan areas across the U.S. are seeing is that growth that's similar has begun to subside, and there's now outward growth. We haven't seen it quite yet here in Minnesota. I want to point out that the Twin Cities isn't the only metropolitan area that we have in the state. Sometimes we think we conflate those two things, and we're thinking, a lot of people, I don't know if you'll admit, but a lot of people will be thinking rural and urban together. We're talking greater Minnesota, and we're talking 80 counties versus 7. Let's be real, right? If we look at our metropolitan areas, the very largest areas, you can see that spread across the state. This is where almost 3/4 of our population lives, in dark blue areas. And it's not just concentrated right in the Twin Cities. It really is a swath across all of the state. The large towns in this map are pictured in the lighter blue color, the smaller towns in green, and then the rural areas are the yellow areas of this map. So just to give you a sense of the population, this is based on density and based on people commuting, daily commute patterns. This is kind of a sense of where our population lives. And we really have seen most of the growth, even though, a lot has been happening in the Twin Cities, there really has been robust growth in our other metropolitan areas as well. Every person who calls themselves a demographer should talk about population aging. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like and what it means to us collectively going forward. Aging is the big trend that we are all experiencing individually as much as we may not like it, and collectively. And so let me give you just a picture of what that looks like and some hints about what it might mean. So we're looking here at 6 years, 6 decades of growth in our older adult population. This is telling us that we've seen growth somewhere between about 65,000, 47,000 and 90,000 additional older adults each decade. That growth has been steady because the growth in the state has been pretty steady over this time. So what do you think it's going to be this decade? Don't guess lower. That's a terrible guess, guys. Okay. Right. So we're already in 2018, if I have to remind you. So we're already well into that first bar. And on top of that, we will be adding 300,000 people in 2020. We're going from about 680,000 to about 1.2 million over the course of this decade. And we're right smack dab in the middle of that transition period right now. Where we're feeling it the most right now is in work transitions, because this is being driven primarily by aging of the baby boomers. You can see that red generation depicted there. If you think about this graph like it's an escalator, and every 5 years everyone moves up a bar, and every 5 years everyone moves up a bar, you start to get a sense of the inevitability of our population aging. You start to get a sense of where people are in their life course and what it might mean for us collectively. And where we are right now is we have a massive amount of people who are transitioning out of the workplace. And so where we're feeling the aging right now is in our workplaces, in the need for workers. This isn't something that is a surprise to anyone. We are just experiencing the movement of a big group of people over the course of a really very normal pattern of them moving into retirement. So it's, again, something that I like because it's real easy to predict, it's real reliable, and it's really unfolding right in front of our eyes in our community. Another shift that's happening that's related to the aging trend is that soon we will have more older adults, age 65 plus, than we have young children. Why does that matter? I don't know that it matters in general. It's significant because it's the first time in our state's history that this will be the case, and that will be the case going forward. If you think about how we provide public services, to whom we are providing public services, and you think about the money that goes into, say, K-12 education, or the 5 to 17 population, so these are folks who are young people who are in kindergarten, high school. That number is going to continue to slowly rise. We don't think about that as much. At the same time, we'll have this really big increase in folks who are over the age of 65 who will have an increased need for healthcare and human services. So the question is, the kind of budget question is, how will we realign our budgets and realign programs and services to meet this it's something that will continue to build pressure over the next several years into the next couple of decades as the baby boomers move, particularly from retirement into the older ages where they'll be in need of more health care. You asked my values, but let me just tell you, I'll do my dance for this graph. The blue area is showing you for the state budget what we spend on K-12 education, so it's a significant shift. And the yellow piece of the pie there is showing you how much budget. So if you go back and kind of think about what does that mean if we have a growing number of older adults who will be in need of healthcare services, what does that do to the other pieces of the pie? Not necessarily a trade-off, but it's a decision that we're going to have to make. It's something that we're going to have to figure out as we move forward. Is just how do we continue to pay for education at the same time that we're also paying for new expenditures related to the aging of our population. Some of the issues that you're talking about today in terms of equity, in terms of inclusion, in terms of the well-being of all of us in the future are very much tied up in this question of how we're going to pay for it. How we're going to provide the baseline of services that we need, but also do so in a way that benefits everyone. What happens when the baby boomers move out of the working ages is there is almost no growth in that working age population. It's put projections together. We're really used to moving along, growing. There's plenty of people to work. We've been growing for decades at a really rapid clip. This decade, we're really putting the brakes on that growth. We're seeing almost no growth in the number of people who are available to work. And again, that's just because there's so many baby boomers who are leaving those working ages. There's a lot of millennials moving in to take their place, but it's just not enough to make up for the loss of the boomers. And so we have this situation coming up where we will have almost no growth in our labor force. And we're really used to having growth in our labor force. We're used to our labor force today in the 1990s was growing by about 55,000 people each year, or 550 over the course of the decade. What we expect this decade is to have about 7,000 people a year added to the workforce. When I talk to employers about this, they get big eyes, they look scared, because they also know very keenly that there's not a lot of growth projected going forward either, right? So it's really scary to a lot of employers. How are we going to do this? How are we going to continue to grow our economy under this condition? Sometimes though, it's pretty good. So I guess it depends who you are. But for all of us, collectively, this is going to be a challenge because or it's going to be a shift. It's going to be a shift in mindset about how we think about people and how we think about what our needs are and what they will be going forward. My point is that going forward, we don't expect to see a whole lot more growth. When we take these projections, we take into account kind of patterns of how people have worked in the past, kind of patterns of labor force participation. We take into account migration, people moving in and out. We take into account international immigration. And what we put into our projections is basically what we've seen in recent years, and expecting that we'll actually see a bit of an uptick in immigration based on some of the projections that we have done. So built into these projections is an assumption that we will see more immigration in the state in the coming years. But if you were to turn on a TV, you would probably say, no, that's a question mark, right? That is a question mark. It's an assumption. If we don't have the immigration that we've had in the past, and if we don't have the growth in immigration that we've projected, we are likely to see these numbers, to see a decline in the size of our labor force. So there's that. If we look at different areas around the state, there are many areas, particularly greater Minnesota, that will see decline in the working age population, even with some of the projected trends in immigration that we see. And so, just to give you a sense of it, it's the experience that different regions of the state will have. It's going to be different across, it's going to be different for central Minnesota than it is from northwestern Minnesota, southwestern Minnesota. We're all going to be experiencing dampened growth in our workforce, but there will be probably some declines in greater Minnesota, even with levels of immigration. Part of what's happening is that we have a long history of losing people to other states. We lose our young people, they go elsewhere. And that's part of the pattern of who we are in the state. It's also a pattern of what the western states look like. It's not just unique to Minnesota. It is something we look at Wisconsin, we look at Illinois out to the east, and the east coast. That's just what this neighborhood of states looks like. We do fully compensate for what we have lost in international immigration, and so that's an important piece to understand too. But I just also want to point out this last data point here. I don't know if this is a trend yet, but for the first time in about 15 years, we actually gained more young people from other states. I say young people because almost all immigration is young people. We gained more people from other states than we lost. And so, this is moving in the right direction. We'll get turn around. We'll see kind of what happens when we get set of data. Are you guys downloading yet? I want to give you a few more things to think about. And then, did you plan for questions? Okay, and then I'll open up for questions. So, we're at a very different place than we were 5 to 10 years ago with jobs. I told you about the future, that we don't expect to see a lot more workers in Minnesota. But where we are right now is that we have fewer unemployed people actively looking for work than we have jobs. And that's different. Look at over the course of the decade, we have a little more people who are looking for work than we had jobs. Now, this doesn't say anything about the match of geography, it doesn't say anything about the match of skills, but what it does tell you is that it's a really, really, really tight labor market right now. And so, when I get those wide eyes from employers when I'm showing them those trends, it's because they're already begun to experience some of these changes. I'll talk to you a little bit about where the growth is happening. We're really lucky in Minnesota because we do have a growing population, immigrant population and population of color. I know people don't often put that word lucky in with immigration. I'm saying, if you flip on the TV nowadays, but as a demographer, if we're looking at how we're going to grow, it has to come from outside our borders. And that's not a political statement, that's a demographic statement. It's pure math. We're not making enough babies to make up for the people who are passing onto the great beyond. That's just how the math works. And so eventually, those patterns play out, and you end up not growing. And so this is just kind of like demographics 101. You get to a point where you have really long life expectancy, low birth rate, you just don't grow without migration. And so we've experienced growth in Minnesota in the past years because of immigration, and particularly attributable to populations of color, both Minnesota-born populations of color, but also newer immigrants in the state. Right now, about 19% of our state are people of color, self-identify as people of color. About 1 million of our 5.5 million. at kind of the growth over the first 5 years of this decade, you can see that the majority of the growth is coming from populations of color. This is not only due to immigration, but also due to birth rates. Who are likely to be parents? Who are having babies? It has a little bit to do with our age structure, that we have an increasingly diverse population as we go younger, as we look at who is likely to become parents, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, more and more diverse. And this increases our diversity in a really predictable way as well. You can see that growth is happening entirely since about 1990s, really picked up. This is the broad racial groups that we see here in Minnesota. And then the growth has been just about equal between Black or African American people of color, Asian people of color, and Hispanic or Latino. If we look across the state, I've been talking about statewide numbers a lot today. But it's really very, very different. You all know this. It's really very different where you go. That there are pockets of great diversity. There are some cities that have seen major transformations in terms of cultural, ethnic, linguistic, religious diversity in very, very concentrated areas across the state. We see a great deal of difference. But what is almost universal is that where there is growth happening, that growth is happening among populations of color. So the green areas are showing you the counties where there was growth in populations of color. The red area where you have white non-Hispanic population. You do see some growth in some of the counties of the white non-Hispanic population, but there's huge swaths of the state that are actually declining. And that's just that math that demographer's math I was telling you about earlier. That's the thing that most harder to grow. And I really bring me down, guys. Come on now. I can't talk about the change in racial and ethnic makeup of our state without talking about some of the disparities that we see. Here is just one example of median income. We see really big differences in terms of poverty rate, all kinds of social and economic indicators of health and well-being. It's consistent across time. We have seen some improvements for all groups in recent years coming out of the recession. You can see kind of all of those graphs tick up, but those big disparities still remain. And so as we move forward and think about, okay, well, here's where the growth is coming from, and we have these big disparities, and we have a tremendous need for workers and for citizens, how is it that we're going to make sure that we're all kind of sharing in the wealth and the well-being that Minnesota has historically enjoyed? It's a big question for us, particularly when you look going forward at the jobs that are likely to grow the fastest. So Dee put out projections that, okay, what do you think the job growth is going to be? You look at some of these jobs, not all of them. What do you see when you look at some of these jobs? Okay. The pay. What happens if we just let people, we're going to need people in these jobs, but what does it mean if people fall into some of these jobs? Like, what are they going to do in those jobs? How they can grow, keep families? How do you pay for childcare in some of these jobs? How do you get to these jobs? You know, there's a situation that's set up here that concerns me that will fall into a future that reinforces some of the disparities that we already have if we just let things kind of unfold. But we don't have to let that happen. We can see it coming. We're here today because we can see that some changes are afoot and we want to do something, make something I shared with you today impact a lot of different areas of life. We talked about education, we talked about health a little bit, work, of course, has implications for transportation and childcare. These are things that are likely to impact and transform many, many different areas of public policy. And the reason why I wake up hopeful every day is even though I know these trends, some of these trends are serious and they're really different from what we've experienced in the past, is that I know that we can do better, and I know that some demographic changes are giving us the opportunity to do better that we maybe otherwise wouldn't have. Sometimes when you shake things up, people let you do stuff they otherwise wouldn't let you do. And so I think, you all are positioned exactly at the right time to be thinking about exactly the questions that you're thinking about, because we're just moving into a phase where the future, I think, will be up for grabs. We're moving into an area where we're not going to be able to do things the same way that we have in the past. And so the question is, can we put something better in place? What can we do to do better? And I'm hopeful. I think we can do this. We've done it in the past. So thank you. That's all I have to share with you for my daily
I think we have time for maybe one question or Susan. I know we have lots of questions, but you'll be around.
I'll be around a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
I think an upward pressure on the rate, and then I certainly this might also show that most of the jobs, right, because the lower rates jump, but should the wages for those jobs go up, if we're short of workers, can we talk a little bit about that relationship?
That should be the case, and in fact, that it is the case a little bit now. It's starting to see that. It's not as quick as it was, as economists expected it to be, as I understand. I'm not an economist, but as I understand it, it was the rise in wages is not as quick as it should have been, but we are starting to see in the last 2 years of data that job growth is happening. So, the concern, I think, so that should be a good thing. That's just like why the students have big eyes too. So this isn't all a bad thing necessarily. The question marks that come in kind of that complicate with the simple interpretation of now we're going to do good because the wages are going to go up. This is the big question mark of technology, which of course we don't have time to talk about today. Well, you all have time to talk about it, but for that today.
Yeah, and if I can just make a comment.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is our day to work on this change in your opportunities, allows for those programs and institutions in place that work for us. That's what we hope the One Minnesota Equity Blueprint can be about. So today we're trying to just download as much as we can.
Time to do it. Someone's got to do it.
I appreciate that.
It should be
good. I know people are itching. Can somebody find Sarah? I just want to make sure that Craig's thing is up next. So, Sarah, there you go. Is Craig's thing okay? Okay, it's great.
Craig doesn't need interpretive dance too, so
Let's take one more question. I know there are a lot of hands up. Somebody maybe on this side of the room. Okay. I'm pointing to somebody. Me, Cornelia, yeah.
I just have one question about the statistics.
yeah. No, I
noticed that you use 10-year periods to show population growth. Present day, you use 5-year periods. So, five. Is that what you expect in these 5 years?
Oh. So why did we switch from 10 years to 5 years? Those were averages, so it was actually lower. So yeah, I did switch, you're right, but I averaged it, so I wasn't tricking you. But the reason why we did it is because we're right in the middle of this transition right now. So I want people to understand incrementally that it's actually quite a big shift over the course of the decade that we're seeing, and so I wanted people to understand kind of right where we were today, closer to mid-decade than 2010. So.
Okay. We're gonna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.